Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Jan Zizka, the Czech hero, medieval Czech hero, and we're going to talk about the film Medieval 2022, and we're going to talk about this film Medieval 2022 from the context of Dungeons and Dragons. All right, so let's talk about this. So, you know me, I am a Dungeons. Oh, and by the way, there's spoilers for Medieval 2022. But since this is a historical it's a historical drama that happened in the 1400s. Am I spoiling anything? I don't know. All right. So, you know me, I love me some Dungeons and Dragons. And so if you put medieval on the title of your film, I'll go show up. So I did. So I went to see this. And I'm going to give you a warning now. Not much to learn about Dungeons and Dragons in this. This movie was not good. First of all, 1 out of 5 stars. This is not a good movie. It did have a little bit of value for Dungeons and Dragons in that it showed how a mace is used. It had actually excellent combat scenes from the perspective of seeing human beings hit other human beings with melee weapons a lot, right? And actually, I think the combat was very significantly consistent with medieval combat, right? It used all medieval weapons. We got to see the crossbow used. We got to see the longbow used. Lots of long swords. Saw some great swords up in there. Saw some morning stars. Saw some maces. And the medieval combat is excellent, and I like to see that because this movie really laid it out. I mean, like, basically the movie is about this Czech hero called Jan Zizka, and he was a real dude. And according to the film, he was like one of the greatest military commanders ever to live, and he was never defeated. Okay, so this movie is about a slim portion of his life, where he is protecting a French princess who ended up in the Czech area in the 1400s when there was a question about 2 popes, right? So they've put a lot of subtitles. So let me stay on the good stuff and then I'll tell you the bad. Actually, we get to see Jan Zizka just lay it out with a mace throughout the entire film. And it's solid combat. It is really extremely well done combat. I was very impressed with just the sheer brutality of it. I thought it did an excellent job of just seeing what it would look like for somebody who's exceptionally skilled with a mace to do combat, and it is brutal, man. It's just bone-breaking savagery. Like, it's just ugh. But you also see how they would feint, how they would have to move, how they would have to use terrain. And one thing that I was also pretty impressed with is when it comes to fighters and melee combat, 5-foot squares and attack of Dungeons and Dragons with 5-foot squares, attack of opportunity, a 6-second combat round. It does a pretty good job of showing you exactly what it would have looked like for medieval feudal combat, right? So this film is somewhat valuable for that. It's actually quite valuable for that alone. And actually, if you go to the movie saying, hey, I want to see this as like a medieval combat simulator, you might, well, actually, one nice thing is I think I paid less than $3 to see this film. So, based on, because I have a movie pass and all. So it was worth $3. I will say that, right? But if you're looking to pay like $15 to $25, think twice. I would not recommend this film. I really think this is a 1 out of 5 star film. So why was this movie so bad, right? And what are the lessons we can learn as dungeon masters? And actually, this movie points to some extremely valuable things that Dungeons & Dragons does to be as relevant as it is as a narrative engine today. And it really points to a lot of Dungeons & Dragons successes, because this movie, honestly, I'll tell you right now, if you live without Dungeons & Dragons, your life must suck. Like, there's just so many lessons you learn from being a dungeon master. Like, one of them is how to tell a story, right? Like, whoever wrote this film, and actually and directed this film, really needed to play more Dungeons and Dragons, because any dungeon master worth their salt would have avoided all the problems they had in this film. All right, so first of all, okay, the world knows American history, but then America, we don't know even a tenth of the world's history, right? So if you're going to bring a international historical story to America, you better make it compelling, right? Like, because we just don't have a high tolerance for international history, right? So it's got to be a really compelling story that is clear and concise and captivating. This movie is none of those, right? 2 hours and 5 minutes long. That's okay, I can deal with a 2 hour and 5 minute long movie. That's not a terrible problem of the film, right? It's not captivating, right? And it wasn't clear. That's the problem. Okay, so first of all, there's two popes, and there's a war for the throne of the Czech Republic, whatever the Czech Republic was called in the 14th century, and there's this hero Jan Zizka. But the problem is, I don't know what Jan Zizka stands for. Like, and basically, it sounded like he was choosing one pope over another pope, but we don't have any idea why one pope is any better than the other, right? So first of all, the stakes are not clear. I have no idea what Jan Zizka was fighting for, right? Second, so Jan Zizka, is he like, and what's even like outrageously outlandish is the first thing Jan Zizka, so you're trying to tell me that I'm supposed to be impressed with this Czech Republic historical figure, and the first thing you'd show me him do is to kidnap a woman? Like, and then she falls in love with him. I'm like, really? Like, you guys need to get some sensitivity, readers for this script, man. Like, this ain't how you position a hero. Like, heroes don't start by kidnapping women. Like, that's, and the fact that I even need to say that, right? Like, and so, it's, you can't make this stuff up. Like, how are you going to try to sell me a hero? The first thing they do is kidnap a woman. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to think, what a hero. Like, okay. Like, it's really bad. So one, you look at this thing and you're like, oh, here's and actually, the other thing is, this is a little embarrassing for the Czech Republic, because I looked this up on Wikipedia, right? And they said, this movie cost $20 million. It's the most expensive Czech movie ever made. I'm like, are you kidding me? One episode of Stranger Things Season 4 cost 50% more than your George Washington movie? That's not good, right? Yeah. So, I guess, Czech Republic, when it comes to movies get good, this was really bad, right? So I think it was underfunded, it was terribly written, and it was just, I didn't know what the stakes were. I didn't really understand what Jan Zizka was fighting for, and none of this was made clear. And then here's the other one, right? The whole thing is brown and gray, right? Come on, put Jan Zizka's forces in orange and his enemy forces in blue, right? So I can tell the sides, because when they start fighting, I know who Jan Zizka is, because he had his eye poked out for some reason. I don't know, whatever. And so he's recognizable because he's always bleeding from his eye. Again, this is your hero character, and he's always bleeding from his eye. I was like, do you guys even have any idea how to present a hero? And so there's just no, they're like, he's the hero because we told you he's the hero, not because he does anything heroic or looks heroic or, matches heroism in any way. You're like, I guess, I don't know. It was really bad. So one of the things that the film did make me appreciate is how powerfully Dungeons and Dragons uses anachronisms, right? So Dungeons and Dragons is a powerful way to tell stories that allow us to explore humanity, and specifically the stories told with Dungeons and Dragons are are hyper focused on seeing the dials turned on politics, religion, and culture, right? And so that's what this movie was trying to do. They were trying to show us the politics, the religion, and the culture of the Czech world in 1400s. The problem is, Dungeons and Dragons realizes in order to tell a story, right, and you can see this throughout Dungeons and Dragons adventures, throughout their setting books, when you want to tell a compelling story, it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be captivating, right? And one of the ways you do that is with anachronisms, right? There's anachronisms all through Dungeons and Dragons. And it's one of the reasons why I think Dungeons and Dragons is really why Dungeons and Dragons is synonymous with American fantasy, and why American fantasy is really surpassing Tolkien fantasy and British fantasy, right? Tolkien down right now, man. He is not doing well. Like, a lot of people got complaints. Ain't nobody, a lot of people really, throwing a lot of shade at the Lord of the Rings, even though it cost up $500 million over on Amazon, The Rings of Power. And also, J.K. Rowling wrote this incredible seven book series, and ain't nobody loving it right now. Like, it's really losing fans. And the last prequel trilogy, that did not do well. So the reality is, Dungeons and Dragons powerfully uses anachronisms to say, we're going to use anachronisms, right? We're going to give you your medieval feudalism. It's going to be recognizable, right? But we're going to take back enough of the realism so that it's clear, concise, and captivating. And that's the issue with this movie, is they put up some text at the and you know what? I'm really starting to think, like, movies that start with text. Okay, Star Wars gets a pass for their scroll, for the Star Wars scroll. But but if you put up sentences at the beginning of your movie, you're trying to tell me something, you really need to tell that to me in the story, right? Like, movies are a visual medium, right? And so you really need to show that to me with the story itself. And so this was extremely poorly done. And I think, one simple thing would have just been like, I totally believe you that all the, the Czechs and the Czech enemies all dressed the same and all wore grays and browns, right? But I need to be able to tell them apart in the fight, right? So slap on some colors that they did not have in real life, right? The other thing is, maybe don't have your hero bleeding through the eye through the whole movie, right? Like, just maybe he has, he just looked wounded and sick through the whole film, right? Like, and it's hard to root for a guy who's bleeding from his eye the whole movie, right? Like, it wasn't good. And again, I'm sure that happened in real life. I'm not sure you need to show me that, right? If you want me to be excited about Jan Zizka, give me some reasons to be excited about Jan Zizka. Also, if you want me to, be in his corner, maybe he don't kidnap a woman at the beginning of the film, right? From a church. Duh. Right? So, this movie was not good, right? And the reality is, one of the things, and what you can realize is, hey, you want to tell a compelling story in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Make sure it is clear, concise, and captivating. Keep your sessions 2 hours or less, right? I would say, hour 45 minutes, not 1 minute, checking at 1:59. Do not even go to the 2 hour point, right? And use anachronisms to make, for brevity and clarity, right? Make sure your audience can understand and give them a reason to care about your non-player characters. And if you put a hero in front of them, make sure that hero comes from action and not, oh, this is the hero because we told you this is the hero. Because for the life of me, I do not know one single thing Jan Zizka did in that movie that would make him a hero of any kind, right? And so don't make the same mistake I did and go see Medieval because you think you will get a Dungeons and Dragons type film. This was not very Dungeons and Dragons-y, and it did a terrible job of telling me any reason why Jan Zizka didn't suck, right? Because according to the movie, he did suck. What I learned about the Czech hero Jan Zizka is he bled out of his eye a lot and he kidnapped women from churches. Was that what you were intending me to take away? I don't think so. telling stories is challenging, right? Like, when you are watching film, big screen and small screen, take lessons away, right? Be clear, be concise, and be captivating. All that is my opinion. Did you see this movie? Am I wrong about a single thing I said? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.